Go to.
How crucial are leadership and teamwork in your professional and personal life? Have you seen promising projects fail because there was no vision, no leader were followed, or a lack of collaboration? Everyone has leadership capacity. Every person can make this their best year ever. But it takes high-performing teams with authentic leaders to work effectively and efficiently together to achieve success. How do you get there, let alone sustain results? Our inspirational speaker today is going to show you how. Randy Fox is someone who dedicates his life to powerful principles of productivity. Having served 20 years as a corporate leader with Fortune 500 experience, authoring several landmark books, and becoming an accomplished NCAA basketball referee, Randy knows how to achieve your ultimate potential. So, are you ready? Are you ready to transform your life and your organization? It's time to maximize your potential, increase your performance, and be fulfilled in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Randy Fox.
Here we go. Are you ready to make this your best year ever? Oh, come on, Tim, that wasn't good enough right there. Are you ready to make this your best year ever? I want you to imagine. I need you to picture with me coming back to being just 5 years old. You're going to have 5-year-olds walking in the door and all other types of ages, but I want you to come back with me to a time when you were learning so many new things, things that you would use every day in your life, things that you may never forget, and the joy and an excitement that you had as you learned all of those new things. I want you to repeat this back to me. This is something that I still remember to this day. 3. 3-1. 3-1-2. 3-1-2-6. 3-1-2-6-5. 3-1-2-6-5-3. 3-1-2-6-5-3-0. Oh, we lost a few people. 3-1-2-6-5-3-0-2. We lost 90% of the rest. 3-1-2-6-5-3-0-2-1. 3-1-2-6-5-3-0-2-1-3. He's got it right there. 3-1-2-6-5-3-0-2-1-3 was my childhood home phone number. Don't call it. I have absolutely no idea who's going to answer. If I asked you right now, you could say your childhood home phone number. Absolutely. You absolutely could. Now my number, it was back in a time that when you dialed, it was like this. Remember that? And when you missed the number, you had to hang up and start all over. Right? Some of you grew up, maybe you didn't have a home phone, you had an iPhone in your hands that you could hold something. Right? But you remember that because it was important in your life to find your family and your friends, and it was a way that you were connected. The home phone number, right? Because we decided it was important, right? To be the best. Top 10. We decided it was important. Now there's some other things that you probably remember that may not be as important, but we still implanted them in our memory. So if I were to say, there she was, just walking down the street singing, I give you the St. Croix Central Choir. Nicely done. Or maybe you're a little bit younger than that, you don't remember that, but you remember there's a story. Yeah. All right, or to infinity and beyond. We get it right. We remember these things because one, they're repeated. Two, they're catchy, right? And because we, for some reason, decided they were important. Right? So our time today is about just that. It's important enough to become the best of the best. Okay? To achieve, to create a culture, to create a climate, right, that makes a difference in the world. Right? It's such an honor to be back with all of you. Now there's many of you that I have never met today. How many of you have never seen my ugly face before? How many of you here are new over the last few years? So maybe about 20% of the room or so. Great to meet y'all. For those of you in the back, it's great to be here. And if you remember, we shared some things before that we might share again. Because just like your home phone number and those songs, repeating is how we remember, right? We learn how? Through repetition. Right? So we may share some things today as reminders, right, of what takes place. My parents were both in the education field all growing up. My mom worked for the regional superintendent of schools. My dad was a math teacher, a coach, and then became an assistant principal and then a principal. So I literally grew up coming to my high school since I can remember, because that's where my dad was. Right? You're the Panthers, we were the Falcons. And I loved going there every day. It was so cool. 3 years old, 5 years old, 8 years old, all growing up. That one day, I will get to put on that blue and gold basketball jersey and play on that team. Or as it turned out, sit on the bench. Okay? That's why I became a referee. I refereed nearly 1,000 games over my 30-year career. That's how I met Tim. I'm now retired because I got sick of getting booed. To be truthful, no, really, I retired for a whole variety of reasons, but I'm still involved in the game. And somebody was asking me earlier, and I said, well, I'm actually responsible for developing over 130 officials. And I assign the referees to 23 colleges in Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin. But since we last met, I decided that the taxes of Illinois and the snow and the polar vortex was no longer in my family's interest. So now I come to you from about an hour north of Orlando, Florida. Some people call it home or vacation. We call it home. Yeah, so it's awesome. It's great. We'll hear a little bit about my family. We'll give you an update on that today. For those of you that may remember, I have a 21-year-old, I have an 18-year-old, and I have a 7-year-old little princess. Now, if you remember the story, don't say a word, because for those in the room that have it, I'm going to give them a little bit of it. So don't share the why. I'll give you the why and what happened there, because it may not be, right, what you think. As students come walking in the door each day and things that happen. So what we're going to be unpacking today, to be the best of the best, is my favorite line. If you take nothing from our time, it's this: the world is waiting for you. It's starving for you. Did any of you watch the TV this morning? Starving. It is starving for people of character to show up and make a difference in their communities. It is starving for people like you to lead the next generation on that quest and journey. The world is waiting for you. And that quest and that journey can be such an amazing, crazy, joyful, turbulent ride. But it's totally, totally worth it. The challenge sometimes, though, is here on that first day, we're excited to take the journey. But around May 14th, you're going, are we done yet? right? Because it can be long, it can be hard. So we got to fuel up. And we're going to be unpacking a variety of things today on what it takes, right, to make that journey, right, for others, right? To take a look at influence, our inner game, the innovational aspects that have to come into your work every day, the impact that you make. Well, we talked about the journey a little bit. My wife and I were blessed to get an opportunity to go to the islands of Hawaii last year. And if anybody here ever been to Hawaii, it's absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. We were there during humpback whale season. So we got to go out on a journey and an excursion to see humpback whales. Beautiful, amazing creatures. And we were on the ship and going around for a little bit while, and after about an hour we finally saw her. There she was, this beautiful humpback whale. And right alongside her, her baby calf. It was beautiful. Creation at its finest. The captain was sharing with us. I was a 5-year-old student that day, learning something new that I didn't know about the whale. So we met them in Maui, Hawaii, in winter. And in the summertime, she started her journey up by Alaska. And she swims around in those waters before it's wintertime, and then she decides to take the 3,000-mile trek to Maui, Hawaii, so that she can go on a blind date. You got it, good, okay. And then she hangs out there and does her whole thing in the winter, and then takes the 3,000-mile trek back to Alaska. And she feeds while that baby's growing inside her. She feeds and feeds, and then when winter comes, 3,000-mile trek back to Hawaii. And when she gets there, that's where we met them. Baby's born, swimming around. She's teaching. She's getting her prepared for her journey. But it doesn't end there. They swim back 3,000 miles to Alaska, and she teaches the baby calf how to feed, how to swim, how to live, to prepare the calf for her life. And then they take the journey together, 3,000 miles back to Hawaii, so that that baby calf can now go on its first blind date. 15,000 miles, 2 years, so that that mama knows that that baby's ready to go. Now, I'm not putting down animal lovers, but that's a whale. How far are you willing to go for the students, for one another, for your husband, for your wife, for your church member that's struggling, for the person at the grocery store that breaks down because they don't have enough money to pay for? How far are you willing to go to make a difference for a human being? The whale journey may be a precious journey, but the impact you make is priceless. Never forget that what you do matters. Who you are matters greatly. The journey is an investment in the people. That is an investment that begins to create your sphere of influence. Last time we were here, we talked about what does it mean to be a great team, to be a great leader. We called out a variety of different words and talked about how do we live those out. Well, today I want to take one of those words and unpack it a little bit further. Influence. See, 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon really does exist, right? Let's pretend you know 10 people. Now I know you know more than 10 people. But if you know 10 people, and those 10 people know 10 people, how many people do we have? It's multiplication, folks. It's easy. Come on. School starts soon. 10 times 10, 100. And those 100 people have a sphere of influence of 10 more people, so now we have 1,000. And those 1,000 have 10 more people. We multiply, we have 10,000. And those 10,000 and 10 people, we have 100,000. And those 10 people, 1,000,000 people, 6 degrees separated from you, sphere sphere of influence could potentially reach 1 million people because your circles do not always completely overlap. And people are going to extend out. I just moved to Florida a little over a year ago. I have a completely different sphere of influence now there that we're touching lives, right? People have children that grow up and they move away, right? Tim's daughter is now outside in Rolla, Missouri. Sphere of influence just shifted. So the influence that Tim had on her life, that any of you had on her life, is now down in Rolla, Missouri. You get it? And it expands, and it grows, and it grows. So now here's this exercise that we're now going to do. I need you to trust. Just trust. Nothing crazy is going to happen. Close your eyes for me. I want you to imagine right now in your mind the 2 people that influenced your life the most. 2 people. I want to see their faces. Living or dead, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you met them, where they were. They influenced your life the most, and now soak it into your soul eye. What did they do? What did they do? How did they influence your life so greatly that you right now are honoring and thinking of them? You can open your eyes. What I want you to do is we're going to get a partner. And if there's 3 of you, that's okay. We're going to take the next minute or 2. Share at least one of the people with the person that you're going to be partnered with. And then vice versa, let them share the name of the person, but then the why of the person. This is critical. It's a moment to honor them, and they will unpack it from there. So go ahead, take a minute, each share that information, honor these people to unpack influence. Go ahead. If you haven't switched, go ahead and switch partners. I'm sure each person gets a chance to share. Hey, Randy, do you have a handheld? All right, well, thank you so much for doing that and honoring them. What I would love is a couple of courageous people that would be willing to share. Randy's going to bring a handheld out here. If you would be willing to stand up and say your name and say that person and the why of who they are. You got me covered there, Randy? You good?
Hey, Sean, Channel 2.
Yep. Chris Sherdy. My person was my stepdad. My dad was never around when I grew up. Grew up with a divorced family, and at a young age I started calling him Dad. And when I think about Dad, I think about him. That's the first person that comes to mind. He was always there for me. Never missed a sporting event. He was always there for me. I think about that with the kids we work with, those families, and just don't work out. I look at that.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Give it up for Chris for sharing. It takes courage to share something, but certainly to share something that challenging. And I would say that you were blessed to have somebody come into your life. Somebody else that has one that's not a family member. Not a family member. Somebody else with some courage. Come on. There's one way over there. Okay. Here we go. I'm coming. I may be old, but I can still run.
My person was my
What's your
next door
name?
neighbor, Rachel. Middle school, high school. It was my next door neighbor. She showed up as someone that was a model of what it looked like to be a mom. I'm gonna cry because I love her so big. As a wife and as someone that cared for children.
Thank you. One more? Power of influence. I'm back over here again. Oh, we have multiple hands. She's up, so here we go.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Jeske, and my person would be a coworker that I had. It was Colette Brothy, who a lot of you already know, and she made me who I am today, and I just love her dearly. She taught me so much for my job, to have compassion for every one of the students, and just made me better. I hope you all agree.
Thank you.
I know Mr. Nussbaum probably doesn't agree.
That's fantastic. You can cut the handout. You know, the reality of it is that influence is really powerful. It's very emotional. It's very personal. Anybody in this room say somebody that is no longer living? The hands up high, really, really high. Look around the room. Look around the room. I would say that's a quarter of the room said somebody that's no longer on this earth alive. The influence isn't just in the moment. It lasts. It makes a difference. Y'all remember your favorite teacher? Yeah? Don't forget that. Whether you're 25 or 75, you remember it's impactful. Now for a really tough question. Did anybody, you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to. Did anybody think of somebody that was a negative influence on their life? Because see, when I said I want you to think of the two most influential people, I didn't say it had to be positive. And there are probably people in this room that have thought of somebody that they don't want to be like because they were hurt. See, influence is influence, and I'm not saying you're going to influence somebody and hurt them, but there very well could be somebody in these chairs that has been or is still being hurt by someone. Or the students that walk in the door that are facing a trauma that's not at their own hands, and you don't even know about it. See, your influence can override the negative. Your influence can make a difference, can really come in and become strong and powerful to the point that they will remember you when you're no longer in this room, or maybe when you're no longer on the earth. See, the point is this. There will be a day that question will be asked in a room. And somebody will have the opportunity to think about or not think about you. And so when they think about you, what will they think? What will be the why? Why will your name, why will your face come into their mind when I ask them to close their eyes? The impact that you can make, the influence that you have is so, so powerful. Never forget that. The world is waiting for you. Right? Because you have an opportunity to make a difference in lives each and every day. I shared that I was growing up and excited to go to the high school, be a part of the sports activities, and it was such a thrill. I got to 8th grade, and at that time, my dad was the assistant principal of my high school. Right? How cool was that? And I'm ready. He had just bought one of those VW Bugs, you know, where the engine's in the back. It had white mag wheels, black interior, orange painted outside. It was cool. I'm like, I'm going to ride to school in style. I'm going to have my dad. He's going to be driving me. I'm going to be the envy, you know, in a nice way, right? I'm excited to go to school. I'm going to be a freshman. My dad's the assistant principal, and I'm showing up in basically what I considered a Rolls Royce, right? This is going to be awesome. And 2 weeks before I entered high school, my mom and my brother and I showed up at our kitchen table. We'd come back from visiting my grandparents, and there was a note on the table. And my dad had decided to leave. Yet 2 weeks later, I still had to go to school. And he was still the assistant principal. There were over 2,000 students in my high school, and nobody knew what was going on. Or so I thought. See, this is the opportunity in the moment of influence that you can't miss. Right? When we talk about best of best, top 10, we talk about really creating that culture and that climate. It's really having those relationships. It's building into your family. When you think about your family at home and the people that you love, you share a lot with them. You know who they are. You know what's bothering them, and you're there for them. And I encourage you, this is your family. And that you need to have that same type of relationship here and then build it with the students. And many of you do this. Keep doing it. Because you never know when a 13-year-old boy is walking across the quad and he's got so much going on in his mind and he's just trying to get through and fake it because he wants his friends to think he's normal. I remember one of my friends walking up to me and stopping me in the quad early that high school year and saying, "Raymond, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And he goes, "No, man. I know. Are you okay? We're here for you. We're going to help you get through this." And he did. My friends rallied around me. They would get with me. They would make sure as more important people found out, I actually realized that I wasn't going to be put in the corner alone. They embraced and they got with me and they built me back up. That friend of mine was an amazing young man. And he stuck with me all through high school. I was kind of a, non-athlete. I grew 6 inches when I was in college, so there was no chance for me in high school to play, any sports, really. I was in the band, and I loved being in the band. Where's the band people? Got any band people in the room? Yeah! Come on, I played trumpet all the way. I got a scholarship to go to college. Come on. I mean, band people are cool. They're not nerds and geeks, right?
Right!
But he was homecoming king. Captain of every team that was imaginable. Went off and played college football and was drafted and played in the NFL for 10 years as quarterback. Had a couple of years as a starter, many years as a backup. I saw Kent Graham a few years ago. We reconnected, we had some lunch, and I brought this story back up to him about what happened when I was 13, him stopping me in the quad. I said, I just want to make sure that you're okay that I share this story and use your name. And he just looks at me and smiles and shakes his head, and I'm like, what? He goes, I don't even remember that happening. See, influence isn't about how much time you're with someone. It's about how much you give them when you're with them. He didn't even remember the conversation, and I'm repeating it to you 37 years after it happened. I can still see it. And he forgot his kind words. So never miss a moment. Never miss a moment. It has to be intentional. And we have to show up every day with the intent of being best of best. I love that character comes first in what you guys are focused on. I love that. Right? As a district, we're focused on the character of the students. So in order for the students to have great character, y'all gotta bring it. Right? Because they aren't going to just suddenly wake up with great character. Yeah, they have their family, they have their friends, but they spend hours with you every day for years. So their character is a reflection of your character. And you know this, but it is a reminder. Somebody's always watching. Somebody's always listening. Right? Anybody live over by the Twin Cities? Have to deal with traffic? Right? There's probably not a whole lot of traffic problems in this area, but maybe you have somebody that cuts you off. Maybe it's a semi, right? And you're running late. And now you were going 15 over the speed limit, and now you're going 35 below the speed limit. And you're getting frustrated. And so what ends up happening is your character starts building up inside you and says, well, this is fine. I'll just pull over and read a book. No! Right? You're getting frustrated. And you start getting upset that guy pulled you over and he's making you late. And now you're getting later. And can he drive any faster? And then he slows down and the turn signal's on. And then, oh no, that wasn't the right exit. And so now he's got to get that big 18-wheeler back up to speed again. And you're just getting more and more and more upset. And that is all external, right? And so something that's critical that we have to do is to work on our character from an internal perspective. Internal versus external. Right? Now, a friend of mine and I was asked actually by somebody, and I apologize, I don't remember your name, but we were flying through the comments out there, and you were like, hey, do you have a new book? And I was like, I do. Wrote a new book last year called You're Missing a Great Game. A friend of mine and I wrote that book, and in it there's a piece that we call the inner game. The inner game. See, the external game are the things that you can see. What you wore today, how your hair looks, or how dissatisfied you are with how it looks. External game, right? Yes, the top 10 is a wonderful goal to have, but it's external game because it's based on a report card. It's something tangible that you can see. External game, right? The results that you see. As a referee, you can look on the scoreboard, right? You have athletes here, you have sports, you can look on the scoreboard and you can see the results. External game. It's outcome, as Tim was saying. That's the outcome. External game, right? The work that you do, the performance, the words that come out of your mouth, the words that come out of other people's mouth. External, external, external. But actually what fuels the external game is the inner game. You have to become masters of your inner game. When you master your inner game, the outer game takes care of itself. When you focus on the outer game and things that are out of your control, like the semi-truck driver in front of me, like maybe there's a lot of other schools that are striving for top 10. And maybe you make good progress and you don't get there like Tim said, okay, you push it back another year. But that's an external game focus if that's the only thing that matters. And the message you heard was, we want to achieve that. But how you achieve it, they all reinforced. It's by the work ethic that you have, the work you put in every day, the process that you do, and that is what I call the inner game. Control what you can control. And some of those inner game elements are things like, how many curse words do I say in my brain when that semi-truck driver cuts me off? It's in the game. Right? You get frustrated with yourself, we all do. You get frustrated with what has happened. Is your self-talk negative? or is it positive? Anybody here not made a mistake in the last year? Last month? Last week? How you doing today so far? We all make mistakes. Let me tell you. You get out on the basketball floor in an arena with jumbotrons that replays your mistakes. I'll never forget standing next to a coach, big arena, a couple thousand people. And I get there and I make that call. His name was Aaron, and he turns to me and he says, Randy, I go, what you got, coach? He goes, have you looked up yet at that jumbotron? I said, I don't want to. He goes, yeah, I wouldn't, because you're not going to like what you see. And it was a funny interaction. So the external game was, that was basically him telling me, you missed the call, and that video is reinforcing that you missed the call. But here's the moment. What do I now do with that information? Inner game. That's the inner game. The best of the best master the inner game. There's great golfers all over the world. The best golfers are the one that when they miss a shot, they get up on the next shot and they have forgotten the one they just missed, and all they're focused on is the next shot. And when I refereed basketball, that's what it was like. That game is still going. Your life is still going. So when you have that mistake happen, learn from it, move on, inner game. Positive self-talk. Hey, Randy, I'm better than that. This is what I'm saying to you. You're going to get it next time. Come on, you'll get that next time. Get a better position on that. Take a moment to process, right? I'm talking to myself positively versus, you are such an idiot, Randy. How did you miss that call? Because how you talk to yourself in here will fuel the results that everybody else sees. Inner game. You have to be a master of your own thoughts. You need to take every thought captive. And if it's not beneficial, throw it out. Let it fuel you for your growth and everything that you're doing. Influence, right? Inner game. But we have to understand that life happens, right? Life does happen. And I remember that day in May of 2002 when we got hit. And that doctor looked at my wife and said, you have cancer. She was 31 years old. And at the time, my boys were 4 and 1. See, you are not guaranteed that externally you're not going to get faced with something traumatic. Your students may get faced with it. And we've got to be ready. We've got to be having a life focused on the future and what we can do, because when those moments come, it's too late to do the conditioning and the strength training. You've got to have something that you're standing on. Okay? I am a person of faith. I stand on faith, and I know that God has a plan for me. I do not question Him, but I lean on Him. What do you stand on? So that when those moments hit you, you can still show up for your teammates and be best of the best. You can still help this team get to the top 10, even though life may be hitting you hard. How about the student that is struggling? And instead of us saying, this kid's so frustrating, let's lift them up. They don't have even the same tools and resources that we have as adults, and we all need each other. They need you even more. And that story about her getting that diagnosis of cancer was devastating because it became life-changing. I started to see purpose and perspective in what I did. I cannot tell you how impactful and life-changing it was in the corporate world. It was like a 2x4 straight from God Himself that hit me upside the head and said, do you get it now, Randy? This life is not about you. I was climbing the corporate ladder, 30 years old, managing a $35 million operation with 200 employees that I was the leader of. I had made it. And then that happened. And I went, that ain't worth anything. And I started saying to people, I climbed to what I thought was the top of the mountain. Financial, position, power, all the worldly things. I climbed it. I was there. And I said, that's it? That's all the view has to offer? This is nothing. And so I encourage you right now, if you need a perspective shift, this is that moment. If you've got the right perspective, help somebody else get it as well. Lead that into the character of the students, that it's not about how much they have or what they do, but it's about who they are and the impact and the influence that they will have on this world well beyond most of us are still living. That's the difference, right, that we want to make. And so I think that one of the greatest ways that you all, that I, to make a difference in people's lives, to be best of the best, is we have to ask questions. We got to ask really good, smart questions. Questions about what's really happening so that you know what you really need to do. Now, I believe that every family has one of these. Most families have this person that when you go out for dinner, you order a burger and fries and a beer, and they order a salad, hold the dressing. There's that person out there that says, I gotta eat healthy. And yet, when your burger and fries show up, they go, can I steal a few of those? Can I have a bite of that? Man, that looks really good. I want a little bit of that too. My family has what I call a food stealer. That's what that person does. They can get their own plate, but then they want some of yours. Food stealer. I'm calling out the food stealer in my family. It's me. Totally true. Every time something happens, everybody in the family is like trying to turn away because they know the claws are coming. I'm going to grab a little something. Well, recently, my daughter was sitting at our kitchen island. And she's 7 years old, and she had some goldfish crackers, right? You know what I'm talking about? In a bowl. And I came by her, and I played that little trick, you know, where you tap them on the left shoulder. And she's 7, so she goes that way. Right? And I got her now. I grabbed that food, I picked it up, I got it in my mouth. She turns and looks at me and says, that wasn't a very good idea. I'm like, what do you mean it wasn't a good idea? She said, I licked every one of them and put it back in the bowl. Totally true story. Now, see, I didn't ask any questions. Now I've learned. May I have some of those? You can. Have you licked them? She goes, do you trust me? It was such an actual learning moment, though, for me, that we don't ask enough important questions. How are you doing? How can I help? All the new people that were just welcomed in here this morning, how many of you veterans have already or will get to them today and not only say welcome, but say, tell me a little something about yourself. Let them open up their heart. Let them into the family. We need to ask important questions of our students. Right? Questions really matter. Because we really are just guessing and assuming. And we all know what assuming does. We don't want to do that, right? We need to ask important questions to make a difference. The investment is worth it. Like the whale. The influence is real, like all those people you thought of. And we understand that we need to have the right information, so we have to ask the right types of questions in everything that we do, because people are having struggles and they're going through different types of things. But I think there's a key piece to make it best to go, yeah, it's great to go from 100 something to 71 and 71 to now something that we're waiting to hear, but we want to get to top 10. And so if we keep doing things just the way we've been doing them, that's good. But that's not good enough. There still has to be some innovation in what you do. That's what jumps the big hurdles, is you keep doing the things that are working well, and then you innovate to kick things up a notch. I'm very blessed to get to do this for a living. It also means that I'm very blessed with air travel. For those of you that have ever had the pleasure of flying, it's a wonderful experience. There's delays, there's so many things outside of your control. My favorite part though is when you sit down and you're instructed on how to buckle a seatbelt like you've never done it before. But you know what? The flight attendants are just doing their job. They're just checking the box. There are things that you have to do that like they have to do. The boxes have to be checked. Or do they? See, some of the time you end up with situations where the flight attendant is just going through the motions and they're just checking the boxes. And they come out to find out if you would like a drink, and they just come walking through. Drink. Drink. I can't hear you. We don't have that. Did you read the card? We don't have those products. Drink. Check. 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 They're doing their job, but it's become a transaction, not relational. They have lost the human touch. It's not best of the best anymore. It's not top 10 experience. It's simply, do you want a drink? Well, come join me on a flight on Southwest Airlines. I didn't get paid for saying that, but I want to be honest. That was the airline. Now, they don't have first class on Southwest, but they do things a little bit differently sometimes, but not always. See, sometimes it's the same old treatment. Well, on this flight, we had a flight attendant named Abraham. Abraham is somebody I think we can all learn from about a little tweak in innovation that can make a big difference. He comes through and he says, would you like something to drink? And he's like, if that seat was open next to you, I'd sit down and have one too, because man, that sounds good. I'm sitting there going, what's going on here? And he did this row by row by row. And then he gets to us, and he's like, sir, I would be no gentleman if I didn't ask the beautiful woman sitting next to you what she would like to drink first. I was like, I thought it was my wife. I mean, it was unique. It was different. He found a way to do little things to make a big difference. But my favorite part of the whole thing is the trash. And this just happened to me 2 days ago when I was flying from Orlando to Milwaukee. See, they get the gloves out. They get the masks on. And you don't know if you're still on an airplane or if you suddenly ended up in your doctor's office. Because here they come with the gloves and the trash bag. And they're ready. They got it, because they got work to do, right? They got tasks and things you have to get done. I understand that. They do too, right? They got to get the trash. They go trash, trash, trash. And they're looking right at you like they're calling you trash. You've seen this. I just saw her 2 days ago. She came down the aisle, looked right at me and said, trash? No, my name's Randy. And now this does the job. This does the job. It collects the trash. The gloves, I get it. They're for sanitary purposes. The trash bag picks it up, it collects it, right? And it's an easy way to dispense of the trash. We expect this. We accept this. See, but not Abraham. That wasn't good enough. I'm going to need an elevator, Tim. Here we go. So, Abraham, he goes to the galley, and I was absolutely amazed. He has on his jacket, he has on a tie, he has on a vest. This was going to be first-class treatment. He comes to collect the garbage and walks up to the first row, and he has a shiny, silver, empty platter. And he puts that down in front of the first row and puts their trash on it and returns to the galley, empties it, comes back to the second row. Shiny, silver, empty platter. And repeats that process row by row by row. And then he gets to us. Join me in our seat as he arrives. And we look down at that silver platter, and all we can see is the reflection of his smile. Are you ready? Abraham looks down and he says, "Sir, are you done?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "May I take that?" I said, "Yes, you may." He said, "You are too kind." I was too kind to let him take my trash on a silver platter. Totally true. Absolutely happened. See, Abraham found a way to take something mundane, routine, white trash bag moment, and he decided that even though this is acceptable and this is good, this is not top 10 best. This is the difference between good and best. You get rid of checking boxes and you find ways to deliver the silver platter experience to your coworkers, to your students, to your church community, to your children, to your husbands, to your wives, to every person that you know, in every moment, in every experience that you have. Are you ready to bring the silver platter experience? Come on! It's time. This is your moment to decide. Will I just keep doing things the way that I have done them, which might be good, maybe even great? We don't want that. Top 10 best silver platter experiences for everybody you know. Because little things make a big difference. They can influence lives, and you can find ways to take anything that you do and to create an experience for somebody that's like a silver platter. I was asked on my way in here, "Are we going to get an update about your son that used to work at Chick-fil-A?" I said, "Well, sure. I'll toss that in there. Why not?" He graduated from college. He now works at the happiest place on earth. In the Pinocchio house, in Fantasyland, in Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, Orlando, Florida. How many of you have ever been to Walt Disney World and ridden It's a Small World? How many of you? It's a small world after all. Come on, I'll get in your head all day. It's a small world. So when that ride begins, and you look up, and there's the glass windows there, and there's people waving at you while they're eating, that's the Pinocchio house. Now you know where he is right now. He's loving it. And he said to me, "Dad, there's a difference between good and great and Disney." He's drinking the Kool-Aid. There's a difference between good and great and St. Croix Central. That was weak. There's a difference between good and great and St. Croix Central. I'll give you an example. He would explain to me, he goes, "Dad, there's not just a flippant way of helping people go when they need to find out where the restrooms are." So the other night I was at a restaurant that I had never been to. And I needed to know where the restaurant was. And this is good. As I'm walking in from the outdoor patio area, I said, hey, where are the restrooms? And that person is walking the opposite direction of me and says they're in that back corner. And I looked over in the back corner and I didn't see them, but I just headed that way because I figured they wouldn't lie to me. And I got there and eventually I found the restrooms. Good. That was good. They're in the back corner. Here's great. I was in a restaurant last night. And I said, where are the restrooms? And she said, if you go past those two tables right there that you can see, to that sign and turn left, it's the first door right there. Ooh, a little bit more specific, a little better information. That's great. This is Disney. A Pinocchio house doesn't have a restroom inside it. You have to actually go outside back into the park. And so when people walk up to my son and he's telling me, he goes, this is how we try to do it. We don't get it right every time, but this is what we work on. When somebody walks up and says, where's the restroom? He says, come follow me. He walks them out the door, out to the park, says, do you see where it says men's and women's? And they said, yes. He goes, those are the restrooms. And this door will be unlocked for you when you come right back, and you come right back in the restaurant. See, there's a difference between good, great, and St. Croix Central. It's little things. See, the other thing that he did when he says, do you see the sign over here that says men's and women's? This is very critical. It's not this. They don't point fingers, because some countries that's offensive. They don't do two fingers, because it's just not quite good enough, and it kind of looks like a gun, or you could be hiding something. So what they do? Open hand. I'm here to serve you. See, little things make a huge difference in silver platter experiences. Innovate! Innovate! Come up with something new, something fresh. If for any reason, just to make it exciting for yourself. Right? Because something new gets us rejuvenated again. Like today, it's the first day of school. Well, kind of, right? But you're getting ready to roll. This is an exciting time. This is a moment, right, that you want to seize. Best of the best. We have a few minutes left. My time will be done with you for this year. We'll have a little bit of a break, so I'm just going to hit a pause button for a second. During the break, if you'd like a hug or a high five or to say hello, I'll be right over here down by the front area. I did bring some books with me. I have some new ones, a few of the old ones. If you'd like to pick one up, be happy to put those resources in your hands. I also have an ebook called The ABCs of Leadership, 26 Ways to Transform Your Life. I also send out 2 or 3 inspirational videos every month to help people on their journey. If you would like those free gifts, 2 or 3 times a month, a video to help you, a little ebook to kind of just bring you back and remind you, I'm going to give you an opportunity to connect with my leadership newsletter right now on your pad and paper, or you could pull out your smartphone. So here's what you're going to do. You will text. You're going to text SCC. Great, huh? SCC. You text SCC to the numbers 66866. Free leadership ebook, free videos that come out 2 to 3 times a month. And it's my way of staying a part of your journey. And if you reply to any of those messages, they come right to me, not to anybody on my team. They come to me. And I will reply back to you. Again, it's SCC to 66866. SCC to 66866. Follow the instructions, and then you'll get signed up in a couple of days. You'll get the first welcome email. So back to that doctor's office in May of 2002, when we heard you have cancer. Some of you may remember that the doctor was not done speaking. And my wife, almost 10 years at the time, had said, and there's no cure. No cure. 31 years old. We tried to create a lot of great memories together, and she lived beautifully with strength and dignity and grace until the Lord brought her home when she was just 36 years old. That was it. That was her lifetime. That was her influence moments. That was it. You don't know how much sand is in your hourglass. You need to maximize every single one of them. Because when that moment comes, it's over. And that was a really tough time in our life. I remember that fall. You know, at Thanksgiving time, elementary school, and you do projects about Thanksgiving, and one of the teachers asked my son's class to write down things that they were thankful for. And I happened to see his project, and one of the things that he wrote was, "My mother is no longer in pain." As much laughter that there was with those dozen or so things out of the mouths of children, there's also real hard life for them and for all of us as well. And we can't miss a moment. His mother was no longer in pain. It's actually beautiful. Because that means he has hope in something that is greater than even this moment. But more importantly, he was suffering, and what he was saying was, maybe now I will no longer be in pain. And I was so blessed to meet another amazing woman through the game of basketball, right? And when I was 40 years old, she says to me, "Why don't we have another child?" And I'm like, "What? That's going to take $10,000 and a very expensive reversal surgery. I won't go any further." Totally true. Lots of ice and frozen bags of peas later. And my daughter Nevaeh has now been on this earth for 7 years. And you know what? I will at any time eat those licked goldfish, because it is what life is all about. The joy of sharing it with people you love. Making a difference. Having fun together. I have a definition for success. It's in the new book, and I want to bless you with it right now. Feel free to use this, share it, quote it, tweet it, whatever you want to do anytime, because it is hard to define success. I've tried to do it. I don't know if I've encompassed it, but this is what I live off of. Love the life you live. Love the life you live. And love those you live it with. It's that simple. If you love the life you live every single day and love those you live it with, this will be a best of the best year for you. You will have a top 10 experience. These children will be moved. You will be transformed. This community will forever be changed because of the work that you have done to set out and say, I matter, each of you matter, what I do matters. Because it's going to take you as the village working together. All of these students, each of the people and the families in this community and this country needs you. Rise up. This is the moment. This is your time. Best of the best. Go after that top 10 by living out everything that we've talked about today and what you are about to experience the rest of this day in preparation for what will be your best year ever. And wherever you go and everything you do, my friends, never forget